All right, let's get started. So greetings everyone and welcome to the California Truth and Healing Council listening session for the Northern region. We've had some previous listening sessions this week, and tomorrow will be the Central region. And Friday will be a regular meeting of the council with public comment taking place from 3 to 4 p.m. as well as throughout the agenda. So my name is Loretta Miranda, and I am Serrano and Cupeño. I'm a descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians in Southern California. And on today, we have Michael Park. He is the assistant for the Tribal Advisor's Office. We don't have Christina Snyder, who's the Tribal Advisor, joining us today. She was booked for another meeting, so I don't have my backup today as far as jumping in to answer questions, but I will do the best of my ability to do so. And before I go into my script, I want to give our council members opportunity to introduce themselves. So please feel free to unmute and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Joan Harper, Pomo Coast Miwok, and one of the representatives for the Northern region. And I just want to say hello and welcome to everybody. And I'm here to listen as much as possible. Thank you.
Aniaikima Mishistu Inkatekarak Isaac. So hello, good day. How are you doing? I'm Isaac Bohorkis. I'm also here to listen to our community. We're here to represent you. So just grateful for everybody that is here this afternoon and taking time out of your busy day, and look forward to all the comments today, and hopefully you'll be able to join us on Friday as well. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. And I'll go through my spiel and then allow everyone to introduce themselves if they would like to. But I'm now going to briefly go through some logistics and preliminary business for today's meeting or listening session. First, we're recording the session and it's available for public participation via Zoom and dial-in. These listening sessions are being held to increase community input specific to the charge of the council. And we ask that you come to these sessions prepared to engage in a thoughtful way that will further the effectiveness of the work. We envision these sessions as ultimately being working sessions that are part of the council rather than just opportunities for public comment. As a reminder, we're taking notes throughout these sessions and will provide a monthly summary overview for the council and the public to review, which we aim to release prior to the regular meeting, but that may change depending on staff capacity. So the goal is to get those summaries out prior to the Friday meeting. And as a note, so once the discussion begins, I will be taking the notes. So if I look like I'm looking away, it's just because I'm taking the notes. I'm definitely still engaged in active listening, but just as a heads up. These summary overviews are not meant to be word for word records or minutes of the sessions, but are being prepared to provide a brief overview of the discussions that took place for the convenience of the council and the public. For those interested in following the council, ongoing updates, including listening session recordings and the summary overview documents I just mentioned, are available at the California Truth and Healing Council updates WordPress page. And I'll put the link in the chat to that website. So this is our blog where we'll be putting the actual recordings there. There's also a link to the questions that will be asked today. Those are also posted on social media, but I'll put that link in here as well. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of the Tribal Advisor on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Listening session recordings are available in full and posted at the link that I previously posted. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, are available on the Tribal Affairs website. And I'm going to put the specific link for the meeting page. So that has the agendas and the recordings from the previous council meetings. If you need technical assistance during today's session, please contact the Office of the Tribal Advisors email at info.tribalaffairs@gov.ca.gov. Thank you, Michael, for the backup. That's in the chat. If you've not already done so, we would appreciate it if you could update your name to say, who you are, your tribe and the organization. And when we get into the discussion portion of today's meeting, we would appreciate if everyone could go on cam if possible. Of course, this is recorded, so if you don't want to be on camera, that's totally fine. But it kind of gets a little weird, just my face being the only one on, so appreciate if your cameras are on. At any point during today's listening session, you can ask questions by using the raise hand feature or simply unmuting your line. We're a pretty small group, so I think unmuting your line would be sufficient. You should be able to raise your hand though using the app controls on Zoom, but you can always also use Alt-Y in Windows or Option-Y on Mac to raise or lower your hand. You can also direct message myself or Michael if you have any, or the group, if you have any comments, or you can let us know that you have a comment. We'll either read that comment into the session or call on you to kind of elaborate more on your comment. If you called in, which doesn't look like we have anyone that has called in, but if so, you can unmute your line by using *6. You may also email written comments to that email address that's in the chat right now at any time. So if you have any comments or any feedback for us or the council, please feel free to email us. We do ask that you put the California Truth and Healing Council in the subject line, just to make it a little easier for staff to sort out. But you can do that at any time. Once COVID-19 restrictions alleviate, we will be having listening sessions both via Zoom and in person in meeting locations throughout the 4 geographic areas of the state. In anticipation of this, if there are any community gathering locations that you recommend or you would like to host a session, please reach out to us at that email address. Again, as a reminder, today's session is the Northern, which includes the counties of Alameda, Contra Costa, Del Norte, Humboldt, Lake, Marin, Mendocino, Monterey, Napa, San Benito, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, San Francisco, San Mateo, and Sonoma. But we are not restricting these meetings to only that geographic region. We just have it in this format in anticipation of meeting in person. And I think, yes, Michael, I put a link in the chat it's a nice visual of the 4 geographic regions if you guys want to check that out. And so now before I begin, I'd like to remind participants that all of our council members, myself and Christina in the Office of the Tribal Advisor, who are staffing this work, and many of you are members of the victim population in need of collective healing. So I ask that you engage with the council, our office, and each other with respect and with your whole heart in a healing mindset. Many of us who are doing this work, are navigating systems that simply were not built for us to make change that was never contemplated. This in itself takes an enormous amount of patience and emotional integrity, and we're all doing our best to make strides in these spaces. So thank you again for joining us. I do have a brief PowerPoint that I will pull up that will provide some updates about the council's work. But I do want to take this moment and pause and see if there's any participants that would like to introduce themselves. And again, not mandatory, but if you'd like to turn your camera and introduce yourselves, you're more than welcome to do so. So I'll give you guys a second. I'm going to begin sharing my screen. Oh, I see you have someone that came off the camera.
I'll introduce myself. Get it started. Adrienne Colgrove Raymond. I'm coming from Northern California and Humboldt, a member of the Hupa tribe, and I work for Humboldt State University. Happy to be here.
Welcome. We're happy you're here. All right, and so I pulled up the PowerPoint. I'm going to put it into slideshow mode. When I do this, sometimes I can't see the chat. So if something happens and you need to get a hold of me, please just unmute and speak, because I can't really see the chat when I do this. Zoom issues. But so I want to walk through this PowerPoint. And so today's agenda, we're going to go through a overview of the council and its charge, and then go over the May council meeting agenda, which again, that meeting is happening on Friday, and then go over some updates, and then take questions for the public, or provide questions and get feedback from the public. And that'll be our listening and discussion section. And let me move this over so I can read the PowerPoint. All right. So the California Truth and Healing Council is a council made up of representatives from California Native American tribes charged with bearing witness to, recording, examining existing documentation of, and receiving California Native American narratives to clarify the historical relationship between the state and California Native Americans in the spirit of truth and healing. The council will submit a final report of findings to the governor's office by 2025. The final report should reflect a holistic understanding of the historical relationship between California Native Americans and the state. The final report may also make recommendations aimed at reparation and restoration, and consider how to prevent similar depredations and/or policies in the future. The council is organized under a charter, and that charter is available on the Tribal Affairs website, and is made up of voting members, and has the ability to have non-voting members. At this time, the council does not have any non-voting members, but that is an option for the future. There are 12 voting members from each of the 4 regions, with 1 seat for a non-federally recognized designee in each of the regions. Each region also has an alternate voting member to ensure quorum for action. The council welcomes and encourages all available methods of public participation. Participants are encouraged to attend and observe all meetings of the council, with the exception of any closed session proceedings, submit written statements to the council, make oral statements and testimony to the council, participate in interactive dialogues, panel discussions, and informal meetings, and organize and host affiliate events on issues relevant to the work of the council. The public is also invited to join the work of the subcommittees. This slide is kind of just a visual representation of the council structure, where you have the voting members on top, and then non-voting members and public participation in affiliated events. Just kind of a visual just to conceptually see how the council is structured. Moving into tribal consultation. So if you're a California Native American tribe, we're seeking to begin in-person consultation meetings where your tribe is comfortable beginning on June 16th. As you may know, June 15th is the date that California intends to move beyond the blueprint, so long as vaccination levels are at an appropriate event or appropriate level, and case rates are low. And so our office is intending to start to begin in-person things. So if your tribe is ready and would like to request in-person consultation, please reach out to us at our email, which is at info.tribalaffairs@gov.ca.gov, if you're ready to meet in person. But we're flexible about the method and mode of meetings, and meetings will be recorded and transcribed. And so with that, tribes may share as much or as little information as they are comfortable with. Outside of tribal consultation, the council and the Tribal Advisor's Office are available to meet with Native American individuals, organizations, and groups at their request. We do recognize that not everybody feels comfortable speaking in a group setting, and so we want to make ourselves available to anyone that would like to chat with us. As far as the council meetings for the rest of this year, the council is currently meeting on a monthly basis, and they're virtual meetings until further guidance is issued from the state for the duration of 2021, or until the council decides otherwise, to set up the foundation for the council's work. So these meeting dates are listed below. Again, they happen on Fridays, and those 4 days preceding, in that week are listening sessions. And the list of next dates are May 21st, June 18th, July 23rd, August 20th, September 17th, October 22nd, and November 19th. And in terms of the listening sessions, we're rotating them so that, Northern is not always on Wednesdays, because we recognize that everyone has different schedules, and we want to be as flexible and as inclusive as possible. And those dates are also on our blog, so on that WordPress link for the listening sessions. So this is our agenda, the council's agenda for Friday. And I just want to walk through what is on the agenda for Friday. So we'll do a welcome, a roll call, traditional opening, introduction of Carmen Lucas, who is the newest appointed and seated council member for the Southern Region. And then item 5 will be the bylaws and process. There are draft bylaws available at the Tribal Advisors website. And during this item, the council can either suggest more amendments or adopt as is, but please take a look at those bylaws. Item 6 is our standing council member updates items. And then public engagement and public relation guidelines and process. So the council and our office, we're getting a lot of incoming requests for media engagement. And so want to just have a discussion with the council about setting up a process for that. Since the council is still, it's very exciting work, and I'm humbled and very excited to be a part of it. And of course, the word's getting out, and so folks are reaching out to us, but we want to make sure we have our ducks in a row before engaging with the public and media. Also, we'll get into a discussion of Councilmember Code of Ethics and respectful engagement in meetings and listening sessions. We'll go through a budget update, and I do have a little bit of an update in the next slides about the budget, the proposed governor's revised budget. And we'll go into a discussion of the subcommittees. So at the previous council meeting, the council set up a partnership funding committee, but hasn't staffed it yet. So it's anticipated that there'll be a discussion on staffing that subcommittee. Also, some other subcommittees that are anticipated to be discussed are the disenrollment/recognition subcommittee and education committees, one focused on K through 12 and one on higher education. An elder subcommittee, and then just a space for other. So if there's any other ideas that the council wants to discuss, that will be what will be discussed then. Item number 12 is the culturally informed wellness practitioner and contracting generally. The council is looking to hire or contract with a wellness practitioner, recognizing that these conversations will bring up a lot of historical and ongoing trauma. And so just to have someone there to help process that information, and we don't want to do harm. But we have to, it's often, you take that bandage off, but if you don't have the support and the tools there to help put the bandage back on and heal it. So that discussion will be happening then. Again, if you have any ideas about a culturally informed wellness practitioner, please let us know that information, either later on in the discussion, or send us an email. Next item is the public and community engagement and input. And then next meeting dates, June 18th is the anniversary of the governor's apology. And so looking for suggestions about programming for that meeting. It will be virtual, but just looking for ways to commemorate that date. And then of course, the public comment section. The meetings are structured to where the business of the council will have a hard cutoff at 3 and then reserve that last hour for public comment. And so there will likely be carryover items. This is a very robust agenda. So getting into our updates, it's our pleasure to announce the appointment of Carmen Lucas as the final voting member of the California Truth and Healing Council. Councilmember Lucas brings a rich background in cultural resource protection, and we're excited to have her join this effort. She was able to join the Southern Region listening session, and it was great to see her, and we'll be hearing from her on Friday. Now getting into the budget update. So due to the budget impacts and uncertain outlook of COVID-19, the 2020-2021 enacted budget included $100,000 annually through 2024-25 to support the following activities. So first was a stipend and travel for council members to attend meetings. Tribal appointees to the council will receive a stipend based on their experience, knowledge, and unique circumstances. The second item covered under that $100,000 was providing a culturally appropriate wellness services for the quarterly meetings. Wellness services from a culturally appropriate psychologist or provider at the regional meetings will provide Native participants with the tools to process and heal from ongoing and historical trauma. And then the third item is that $100,000 is going towards is live streaming the meetings and transcription of the meetings and consultations to provide and preserve public access to the primary materials for the final report and appendices. The council will live stream, record, and transcribe meetings, and it will audio record and transcribe consultations. Getting into the update as far as the May revision to the governor's proposed 2021-22 budget includes a requested additional $350,000 annually. So that would be $450,000 total through 2024 and 25 to support the work of the council. If enacted, additional funds would go to the following activities. First being coordinating research, compilation, and consolidation of all known resources available within the state library and archives at the direction of and for presentation to the Truth and Healing Council. The researcher will present information to the council at its quarterly meetings, coordinate additional research efforts, and compile appendices for the final report. The second item will be compiling and composing the report of findings and recommendations aimed at reparation and or restoration at the direction of the council for presentation to the governor's office based on current academic and international methodologies. Then the third item is council and office travel for consultations, meetings, and subcommittee work. Now getting into the updates for the subcommittee. So right now there are 3 subcommittees. The Academic Partnership Subcommittee has met and recommends additional council discussion to refine the report goals and research agenda. And so the Academic Partnership, the way that differs from the item that we'll be discussing on Friday, Friday is more towards, I guess, the education system. Academic Partnerships is more about partnering with universities to help with the research and report writing. And so we do have some questions in a couple of slides that are specific for that subcommittee. The Youth Council has also met and seeks additional community engagement to address outstanding questions. Again, we have some questions about that later on. The Funding Partnership Subcommittee has been created, but not yet staffed. Again, these are the other subcommittees that are under consideration. We have the Disenrollment Recognition Subcommittee, Elders, and then Education. And so now getting into some of the questions for the public and for you all, and again, very happy to have you here and looking forward to the discussion. The council, so these questions are about the general scope, and the council's charge is to receive, examine, and report on the history of the state's negative actions towards tribes through the Native lens and experience, and recommend remedial measures that can be taken. So we have 2 questions here just to get folks thinking. So what early state actions should the state be most accountable for from the Native perspective? And also, what state actions have been the most harmful to today's California Native peoples? So I'll stop talking there. I don't think I'm an attorney who doesn't like to talk much. And so I will open it up to the floor and please jump in and feel free to just unmute yourself if you want to speak to this. And just to give you an idea of the previous listening sessions, I'm pulling up my notes. We've had some discussion about, state sanctioned genocide as a starting point, and, the land state needs to be held accountable for erasing culture, that was the discussions we were having earlier this week. And so if anyone wants to jump in, go for it.
Hello, my name is Pam Gonzalez. My name up there says Tracy. My daughter set this up for me. One of the things that I'm Wintun, Concow, and Hutchna here in Northern California. I live in Solano County right now. One of the things that we've been working on and I've been advocating for is homeland history to be added to the school curriculum. I've done research and there is nothing in the curriculum in the local schools that talk about homeland history. It's always, you know, a pan-Indian type of thing. Even at UC Davis, they don't have a module or anything that teaches homeland history. So that's harmful to California Native people. So I would be interested at some point to maybe get involved. I'm not sure what I could add to it, but the committee that's being formed from the last time they were talking about, but I'm looking at K through 16. And on the health, I don't think anybody has health up there, did they, on any of the topics?
No, I don't think that's been, I think it's been brought up, but are you speaking to specifically like a health subcommittee? Yeah.
I don't think one of those have been added, has there? And what I'm specifically looking at is I find, because I'm retired and I'm older and all of that, so these things come up in my life. I do have my own insurance. We have Kaiser. And what I've found is I go to Indian Health Services for like the education part of it, the like diabetes education. I feel more comfortable going to IHS than I do Kaiser. So I thought, why isn't there some kind of overlap or some kind of connection that can be made? You know, it doesn't have to be Kaiser, it can be Dignity or Sutter or whatever. But I don't know if anybody's even thought about that. And I did ask my doctor, who did his work with IHS before he joined Kaiser. So I kind of followed him. But he said he would like to see that, but you know, he's a physician there. He doesn't work in administration. So I'm just wondering if there's anybody else runs into that kind of thing. I don't see myself as unique in that, but most of my health issues, I've gotten more help on the education part from IHS than I have my provider that I pay every month. So those are a couple of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up. I don't know if that's something that anybody else has an issue with. So thank you.
Thank you, Pam. That's really helpful information. And I'll share that, yeah, like that is exactly how I treat my own personal health is even if I have, you know, insurance, I won't use it. I'll wait till I'm home and go to the IHS clinic. So I think that is a larger issue, and kind of where that stems from is something that we can make note of and address. So thank you for sharing that. And council members, do you have any specific questions regarding the scope of the work, or kind of where, because to say this is a large task is an understatement. And so kind of conceptually figuring out where to begin, whether that's by topic, whether that's by years. If you have any questions you want to ask the group, please feel free to do so. Or if anyone else has any ideas. And it looks like the chat, we have Robert Levi from Torres Martinez, who will address Unless you want to jump on now, Robert, to address the curriculum.
Okay, wait, let me finish my grape. Okay, since the homefront education has been brought up, right now in the legislature, James Ramos, who's Serrano and Coya from the 40th district down here in Southern California, has introduced Assembly Bill 1551, which is California Indian history being more emphasized in the social studies history framework for the public schools in California. I'm currently, my wife and I, who's Miwok Hopi, are working on the curriculum with Mr. Ramos and trying to get the word out. And as I mentioned yesterday, because me and Cynthia Loretta are best buddies now because I've been on every meeting. And I too am retired and had 40 years of teaching U.S. history in the public, 38 years teaching in the public schools, advanced placement in college prep U.S. history, and integrating California Indian, American Indian history into my curriculum. So, we're going about that, trying to get this pushed into the state guidelines for public education. And also James now has started working on, if that doesn't work, we're going to amend the Constitution. Yes, you heard me right. We're going to amend the state of California's Constitution to include California Indian history. That's how serious we all feel in terms of backing this bill. And that's what we were just looking at yesterday, is that I'll put up, we've come not into a hurdle, but just like a little stop and go with my union, the California Teachers Association, and the wording of the bill. So we would like to start a letter campaign to the president, Toby Boyd of CTA, and I'll put his email up in the chat, so you can just send him a quick chat and say, hey, support AB 1551, because it's for the good of all public students in the education field, K through 12. This is K through 12. My wife's a fourth grade teacher. She's working on the curriculum for pre-K to, I believe, fourth grade. And I'm doing the high school. So if any other teachers are out there who are California or American Indian, we need your help. I'll put my email up in the chat like I did before. We just need a junior high, middle school person. I can do that, but I'd really like to have somebody go over my curriculum work. Also, fantastic news. Just this morning, my wife was appointed to the California Teachers Association State Council, which is the whole meeting of head teachers there. She's now in a leadership role for the union. So she's going to work on that AB 1551. And now, Assemblyman Ramos is on the Social Studies History Framework Council for the California Department of Education. Just this morning, he was appointed. So now we have my wife with CTA, Assemblyman Ramos with the CDE and the curriculum committee working together now to get this bill passed through the legislature. But still, again, please, 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 it takes maybe 10 minutes to put something together and send it off an email to Toby. It's not so much that, but we're stuck in the legislative committee within CTA. All the ethnic caucuses, African American, American Indian, Asian American, Pacific Islander, and the Hispanic caucus and the Women's caucus, LGBTQ+, have all sponsored or endorsed AB 1551. So we just needed to get through ledge, and hopefully we will get that done. Not hopefully, we will get that done. So that's what's happening in terms of the Public Education Forum. Again, with Chumash has a curriculum, Alva Calente has a curriculum. What's the rancheria up north? They have Wintu, I think, has a curriculum for their schools. So, looking to get help from them, we'll try to address the omission of California Indian history. And let me last, and then I'll get off and let other people talk. Lastly, we have statistics found in a report done, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, out of Sac State, City of Sacramento, and San Diego State University. They put together I just wrote it down, from boarding schools to suspension boards, which puts together how public ed is affecting our California Indian public students. And what we found is the majority of suspensions and dropouts and even suicides come from the kids who are the Indian children who are in middle school to junior high. So we're trying to focus more in on that area. But again, we need somebody to help write the curriculum. So I'll get off and let other people comment, and we'll go from there. Okay, thank you, Loretta.
Thank you, Robert. Does anyone else have thoughts on scope in general, or any feedback for the council on specific issues to address, or timelines? And if not, that's fine. You can always just, oh, I see we have an unmute from Adrian.
I'm just mostly here to listen, but I definitely agree with the issues that were just brought up. That's definitely a big issue that's impacting our students, and the way that our students see ourselves in the classroom is so important, and it kind of transcends throughout their whole journey through education. One area that we're running into at the higher ed level is that we're working with our campuses, and the CSU in particular. I know the UC is also working it with their team as well, but it's what we call the invisibility of Native students in our communities. And we have been working, I've been working at Humboldt for 24 years, and we've been working on this issue for over 15 that I know of, and that is getting accountability of our students in the college system. We at the CSU at this time still doesn't have a drop down of all the states or all the tribes. So students are identifying as other, two or more, unknown, or being left off of the radar. So what happens is then numbers become real low. And I work on data real closely. I've been following data for 10 years at our campus and noticing where our students are getting dropped off. And we've been working closely with the chancellor's office to try to change things, but we're hopeful with the new chancellor for sure. But to put that on the radar, when we look at the amount of money that the tribes in California in particular, I think I counted something like $30 million that the tribes have donated to the CSU system alone, and the UCs that I just seen, just not even, that was just like at a glance of what I counted. I feel like our tribes are putting a lot of money to the educational system. And I think the return on that, we have to have some accountability on the return of the money that the tribes are putting in. I just recently did for my campus, I started looking at the amount of money that the tribes are putting in scholarship through the California tribes, but also tribes or other foundations that a lot of the tribes are donating to, like the American Indian College Fund and such. And in our campus alone, there was, we just at a first glance at it, I haven't got the full numbers, but they've already put over $300,000 just on our campus to send students to college. And so I think we need to have some recognition of how much tribes are putting in, and how much tribes and energy that they're putting in, not only energy, but money they're putting into the educational system. And all we're asking in return for that is that you strengthen the programs of support for our Native students on campus, and then also that you help us to those professionals who are working on this on the California State Native Initiative. If you could help support us in making sure that our students are identified properly.
Thank you for that comment. And it looks like we might have had Councilmember Myers join. Councilmember, if you want to jump on and introduce yourself.
Oh man, I thought I would sneak in the back of the room here. I am Queen now, Frankie Myers, Vice Chairman for the York Tribe, and just wanted to sit and listen to the dialogue and have a better understanding. Thank you for everyone for attending and the discussion, especially around our education system and the need for it to get better for tribal people. I could get on my soapbox, so I'll stop now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Loretta, I just wanted to add one more thing. I was glad to hear somebody bring up the money. I was scrolling around and looking on the internet, and I ran across a a $5 million grant for California history, and it was from Assemblyman Ting, I think, out of San Francisco. And I think that was for 1718 or 1819, something like that. And so I'm thinking, 5 million, where is it? And what are they doing with it? And I think UC Davis has some connection with it. I'm not quite sure. I did look up the lady's name, and I've inquired with some professors I know at Davis to find out more about that, because when we went there, we did ask, what is the curriculum you have? The history project in particular, what do you have in California history? And she said, not much. And I looked through the book list, and of course it was all over the United States. I think there might have been a couple, maybe two or three of California. And again, nothing local, nothing pertaining to even Northern California that I recall. But I don't know, it just seems like there's money floating around in places, and we're not being asked to have, I don't know what it takes, but it seems like there's money all over the place. Somebody's getting it, but we're not getting asked to for any input. So I don't know how we go about that. We can't, we don't know every pot that's out there, and I don't know how we find that out. And that's been really frustrating to maneuver around, because we're asked by the county when we go to them and ask, why isn't there any history of the local tribes? And I think in that way, when I keep saying local tribes, I mean the local homeland. For us, it's Colusa, Solano, and Yolo counties. And I've done all my volunteer work in Yolo County. So that's where I focus my energies, because it is a pretty active community. And it's just really frustrating to work in. I did a presentation the other day, last week, and there's a school in Davis. It was to an ethnic studies task force committee. And so I went on the website of the Davis Unified School District, and I found a school that's Patwin School, which is a native word for in our tribe for people. And so I looked on there, and I started going through their website to see, okay, what are you saying about Patwin people? How are you describing us? And I looked and I looked and I looked. If I may have overlooked it, I don't know, but I spent 2 days, not 24 hours, but looking for something that described, why did you name your school Patwin? And finally, I found it was on a link under resources, and there were 3 drop downs on that. And it was in one of those drop downs, and it was the student's handbook, a 30-page document. And we were on page 28 with an 8-line paragraph. And we ate berries, we ate acorns, we killed deer, we made huts. And that's how we're described all the time. Plus we're hidden away. We're hidden away on page 28, where our paragraph was right below the rules for 2 square and 4 square. And Henry the Hawk was right below us. And I thought, well, even the hawk is kind of making me mad now, because that's in our creation story. So those are the things that we're all dealing with. And I think I'm probably speaking to the choir, but there's money out there. Because one of the things Yolo County asked us is, well, we got to look at funding. Why do we have to look at funding? You need to. You've got all the stats showing that our dropout rate is going up 3 years in a row, and nobody's done anything about it. So how do you maneuver that kind of situation? You just get worn out. I'm old, and I hope my grandson doesn't, become my age and be beating the same drum. So anyway, just venting some frustration. Thanks.
It's much appreciated, and I think the issue, of accountability, and so thank you for sharing that. I do want to ask the academic partnership questions. And so Again, the subcommittee about academic partnerships is focused on research and partnering with university, UC, CSU yet, but compile the research to that. So should the goal of the final report be? How should the council frame its research agenda? How can the council be most inclusive in incorporating research and narrative into this work? Are there preferred academic partners that the council should be speaking with, or preferred models? Conversely, is there any academic partners that the council should not work with? How should the council archive testimony received? Where should it live? So if you have any suggestions on any of these questions, or anything at this point, but specifically for the academic partnership, but we'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I think one of the, when the subcommittee met, there was a discussion on, what is credibility? Like what type of report would have that credibility? Because I think having recommendations for reparations and restoration, it has to have teeth to continue. We want this work to continue well past that 2025 cutoff. So just thinking of how to do that. This is the first in the nation to examine an entire state. So definitely open to receiving some guidance and feedback. And I do see that Robert Levi has put in the chat the contact information he mentioned earlier. Michael also put the questions for today if you want to follow along with them in our blog post. And I see Robert has gone on camera. If you would like to make a comment.
I'm back. The last commenter, let me try and heal that a little bit, and it's going to take some time. And she says she's mentioned she's old. Well, I'm old too. I have some grandkids that are going to be starting kindergarten in August. Right now, what we're looking to do for like the California Teachers Association, and again, James Ramos is that we're trying to get more. And again, also with the higher education, getting more California American Indian students to go to colleges and become teachers. I think that's the crux of her issue, is that there lacks that Indian input, local and national, within our public schools. So again, we can do all this great curriculum work, but how are we gonna get it across to the students, both Indian and non-Indian? Because again, that AB 1551 is supposed to be for all students. So again, when we talk about systematic racism, well, it's the system. So now we're trying to fix that system, which can be done. I don't think James or I or my wife, Mary, would be pushing for this within the political and social systems in the state of California. But again, we do need more Indians as teachers so they can get across this curriculum. My only concern, again, with the issue of developing more curriculum is that how can we get non-Indian teachers to try to understand the Indian way? And again, like you were saying before in the introduction, is that some tribes don't want to tell things or tell traditional ideas to the outside public. I know when I was growing up, my father and my grandfather, would say, oh, here's stuff that, you should only know, that we should only know, and no one else knows about it. So again, it's a touchy issue, but again, we just got to get more Indian educators out there, K through 12. So hopefully, our grandchildren will feel the impact of this movement that we're starting in the 21st century. Gosh. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit. I don't know if it does, but as a California teacher, retired or not, we're trying to help. And as a Kuya Indian, we're trying to help as much as we can. So thanks, Loretta. I'll let you get going now.
Thank you. Does anyone have any recommendations on academic partners the council should be speaking with at this point, or conversely, ones that they should not be speaking with at this point? Just want to get that feedback from the community.
I think we have some faculty, some Native faculty who are working on these issues quite a lot. And I definitely think you should pull in a team of the faculty from across the CSU and the UC. I know up in our way, we even have we have the American Indian Education minor and 2 Native faculty, tenure track faculty in that program that have some wonderful experience and knowledge. And I think working with them to help sharing how they're infusing it in their areas.
Thank you, Adrian. And I know we can't tell on Zoom, but I was definitely looking at you with the working for HSU. So thank you for that input. And if you have specific folks that you want to suggest that the council get in touch with, if you want to email that to us or let us know here, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And it looks like we have in the chat an event, and I'm afraid to click it because I don't know what it'll do on my end since I have the PowerPoint up, but there's a workshop open to the public in July. It looks like it's regarding historical trauma. And one question that's come up a lot is, the council is charged with collecting all of this data, collecting all the testimony, and looking at, where should this data and information live is something that the council is interested in hearing about. And just know, if you're raising your hand, I can't see it. So just go ahead and unmute yourself. And then we move to the next, let's see. So the Youth Council also met, and Councilmember Bojorquez is also on the Youth Council Subcommittee. Some of the questions that we want to pose to everybody. First, how can the council best engage with California Native youth populations? Which platforms and messengers? Are there any key partners that the council can work with to reach the Native youth? Certain organizations, I think we've heard in the past, Unity. There are some other great organizations, but definitely open to hearing about those. Also, should the Youth Council Subcommittee be modeled on the council structure or something else? So kind of this question is getting towards conceptually thinking about whether the Youth Council should be like literally a youth council of the Truth and Healing Council versus a subcommittee focused on youth issues. Like those 2 different models, like if there's any preference or any strong feedback one way or the other. Also, should the council be focused, or should the subcommittee be focused on California Native issues or more open-ended? And then just an overarching question of what is a youth? How do we define it? Like when you think about youth, I'd like to think I'm young, but I don't think I'm in that youth category anymore. But is it 18 and under? Is it, what would you envision this definition be? And so I'll stop talking and open it up to everybody.
One of the things, this is Pam again. One of the things we talked about in Yolo County with our meetings with the Yolo County Office of Education was leadership training. We had an incident where there was a young girl that tried to start a Native club of some kind, and she got no support from the school. And we felt really bad about that because we don't have, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe like an advisory, a county-wide advisory group that they can call on for support, that can go with them to give them support and let them go with them to schools or go with them for other issues that maybe parents are having, which is something else that's going on right now with a young child who was shamed about his hair and things like that are going on, but the parents really feel alone. And what I hate to see is kids, because I've had that experience, I hear other people saying the same thing with their children, that they don't want to tell you anything. They keep it to themselves because they don't want you going to school. And it's probably not just Native kids, but I think more, and there was a professor that said the same thing about her child who was in grammar school, that he hesitates now because she did go to school and talk to them. So that's why one of the things that we talked about was leadership training. And I think Isaac was at that meeting too. So those were one of the things that we thought about, and maybe trying to give support and help them with that. But I don't know. We've talked about advisory committees in the county, and we I think UC Davis just got one California Native professor, and she doesn't start till July. The rest are, either Navajo or they're out-of-state professors that they have. And UC Davis also has a hemispheric approach, so we're kind of top heavy on South America, Central America, and Mexico. But she's the first, and I don't know how long, when they had the last California professor, but yeah, and I've seen a lot of the professors and PhD people come out of Humboldt County, and I thought, what are they doing? You guys got a secret up there? Is it the water or what? We need some of that. It seems like you have a lot of people and you're really geared toward education, so you might want to pick your brains on that.
I think it comes from trying to save the water. We're all trying to save the water up in Northern California. We got lots of activism going on up here.
And just drawing some attention to the chat. So Can Foster stated that our Davis group is having Native graduation on June 3rd, and everyone here is invited to honor the graduates. She also commented that in response to your comment, Pam, that if she's in Davis, that they have a Native family committee, and the student is welcome to reach out to us or to them. Also for Yolo County, we may wish to contact Melissa Moreno at her emails in the chat. And thank you, Adrian, for putting all of those, the names in the chat. I was over here taking notes of that. So much appreciated. In terms of, and also with, was it Two Feathers, that they have very strong connections with the tribal youth voice. I think in general, you'll see that we have like a smaller attendance, but we're small but mighty. I think the word's getting more out about our listening sessions, but we are running into, we post on our social media. Christina and I are mentioning the listening sessions at every opportunity we have and forwarding to our contacts. And that's just a separate issue in general about like outreach for this specific for the council in general. But then when you think about youth, like how do we reach the youth short of having our council members do some TikTok videos? How, like, if you all have experience working with youth, I think yesterday we had a suggestion for like flyers and newspapers, like at TANF offices was a way that they were working with getting their the word out about a youth event for that particular area. But definitely open to any feedback as far as how do we engage youth, how do we reach them.
I think stipends, money always works. Hey, there's 5 million floating around someplace. Okay, can you give up a little bit? I think stipends. We've kind of talked about that. I don't particularly want to be in the in that area of working actually with them. I come at it from a different point of view. Is I'm older, I would rather talk to the grown-ups because you're the one that's going to be teaching. You're going to be with the kids. And that's what I've seen in my volunteer work also, is that they do that. Teachers will bring their kids out. I've done like 20 plus years of volunteer work at a nature preserve. And we have a 2-3 acre garden called the Tending and Gathering Garden. And it's for native plants and things that native people can come out and gather. But the teachers will bring the kids out, the students, and it's just kind of, they just run, they want to run and upset the birds and everything else. It drives me crazy. But I would rather train those teachers or have a training for them than you teach them. That's your job. You're getting paid for it. I'm a volunteer. And so I kind of look at it that way. Same thing with teachers. I would rather work from that perspective of educating educators, I call it.
Thank you for that comment, Pam. And I think, Ken, you were unmuted for a second. So if you have anything to say, jump on in.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to, I saw that the little thing was around the box, so I didn't want to jump in. And it looks like we have a comment in the chat saying that I think 12 to 22 years old is, looking at youth, 12 to 22, and that your son just finished his sophomore year at Humboldt State, and that you're Konkau Maidu from Moortown Rancheria up in Butte County, and the Tipo for Moortown, just listening. So thank you for introducing yourself, and we're happy to have you. Does anyone else have any thoughts on youth engagement, or whether when you envision a youth subcommittee, if you envision it being more so a committee dedicated to youth issues, or empowering the youth to kind of have their own mini Truth and Healing Council? And Councilmember Boricus, if you have anything to add, please definitely feel free to jump on in too.
I'm just listening in. I am very curious to see in which way our community would like us to go for their youth. I definitely hear the call for leadership training. And I think whichever route that we go, that we can definitely do that. I think there's tons of ways that we can involve our youth and provide leadership training. In doing this, it's been something that has been done, obviously in the public school systems for years, and even outside of the schools. You look at like the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, the mayor's offices, usually for most cities, they always have a youth element, somebody that joins those particular meetings where they guide them. And then there's tons of organizations that are out there. There's the California Association of Directors of Activities, the California Association of Student Councils for State Student Council. They're constantly engaging our youth and providing youth leadership. And I think that no matter how or what platforms that we use, that we definitely need to incorporate that. Seeing here the call to train our Native youth to become that next generation of leaders, as they will lead our tribes and our communities and our nations moving forward. We need to ensure that they have all the tools in their tool belt to be able to do so. So I'm definitely very, very curious to see how the community would love for this to go. Happy to be a part of it and humbled to be a part of it. But you know, it's not, in order, I think, for it to be as successful as it can, it needs to come from all of us, and not just one or just a small group. And that's why I'm very, very curious to hear what the community, not just in obviously in our region here, but for all the regions, so that we can move forward together. Through unity, we will continue to move forward and have the resiliency that we have all had, our ancestors have had moving forward.
And again, if you've called in, I can't see if anyone has at this point, but it's *6 to unmute. And of course, if you need some time to think about, you know, the youth committee, and we can definitely jump in later on as well, or, you know, send written comments or be at the council meeting. But I do want to pull up the questions for, let me pull it up on this one, funding partnerships. And so the funding partnership subcommittee has been created, but it hasn't been staffed yet. Staff has met with the Decolonizing Wealth Project. It's an Indigenous owned organization that works to put out asks for like philanthropic dollars. So as you saw, our state budget kind of covers like some of the research and everything, but we know that in order to do this work, that there will be, we need more funding. And so again, this subcommittee hasn't been staffed yet, but first, I think we need to have a better understanding of the needs. So I really do appreciate the comment about youth needing stipends, because that is, can be a need to get the youth engaged, or anyone. So I think the question is, what are the needs of the community in engaging in the work of the council that are not currently funded, and thinking of those needs in the tribal space, organizational space, and individual. Also, are there any recommended communication partners that the council may want to work with to spread the word about this work? So as a part of you know, working with this organization, we anticipate asking for funds to help with our outreach aspect and like public relations. Christina and I are only two people. Us posting on Facebook is, you know, we need a little bit, it's a heavier reach. And so if you know of any communication partners, you know, firms that are Native owned or not, just ones that work well with that you're in your experience, we would love to hear that feedback. And thank you, Ken, for putting in the chat. It looks like you put the Native Youth graduation at Davis on June 3rd at 6 p.m. and provide your email. So thank you. Oh, on Zoom. And I think asking this question also, you know, we recognize that asking, you know, tribal communities to provide, you know, testimony, just kind of thinking of, you know, perhaps that's something that we should be looking towards, you know, getting funding for, to pay for people's time, or, you know, thank you all for being here. You're all here right now. In the future, if we are in person, like with travel stipends, help with that, that kind of stuff. And I do see a comment in here from Madonna Feather, and I will add you to the email list. And Kathy Corey, who is Chichansi, I'm going to read out your comment. So it says, perhaps a certificate program for youth leadership as is offered for adults in Native leadership. I strongly believe that this should not have a requirement of being an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe, but open to all non-recognized, state recognized, and disenrolled equally. Perhaps Jolie Proudfit may be a good consultant in something like that, as she's been involved in the adult certificate program and it has done extensive research on Native student applications to universities, acceptance rates, and etc. Thank you for that comment. And Ken, I will email you or add you to the email list as well. Or actually, in truth, I will ask Michael to add you to the email list. He's responsible for helping us get organized. So thank you, Michael. But again, do you guys see any needs or any asks that the council should be thinking about as far as increasing engagement for tribes, for people? Definitely open to hearing your thoughts on that. Or if you know of any communication firms, the state tends to use, we have one firm and one Native owned firm, and they are just kind of overwhelmed with the every state event and the vaccine rollout and everything. So they're at capacity and this is a huge lift. So we are looking for help with that. And of course, relying on you guys as well as word of mouth and forwarding the invite along and our social media posts. So definitely appreciate you being here. Moving on to contracting. So what, like I mentioned earlier, the council is looking at contracting for a culturally informed wellness practitioner, also, research and whatnot. So in general, what should the council and staff be mindful of when seeking third parties to do the work of the council? And are there models that have worked that the council and staff can look to that you're aware of? And I think in the past we've heard about, as far as the cultural wellness practitioners, offering like a buffet, not just having one wellness practitioner, but perhaps contracting with a few different organizations and folks to provide that, specifically in each of the different regions. So if there's anyone in the northern region that you guys would like to recommend, we're definitely open to hearing about that. And then our last slide of questions have to do with the June 18th meeting. And so again, this is the anniversary of the apology. And just want to hear feedback on how the council should commemorate the anniversary of the apology and what programming you would like to see, what participants. Again, we anticipate it being on Zoom, but still open to feedback about any suggestions you have. And as a reminder, the apology, that executive order is what created the council. And so.
Loretta, I have a comment on that because I have talked about that before. And I think the governor formed it and it's a good starting point. But I'm land acknowledgements and apologies, I kind of look at them as pieces of paper, treaties. I was kind of disappointed. I'm glad the governor made the apology, But what bothered me when I really read it through was the little disclaimer right above his signature. And I thought, this looks familiar. So I went back through some of my materials that I had, and it's also on our treaty in 1851.
That was good.
And most recently, I ran across an article. Old people and Google are bad combinations. So I have this time to Google, and I accidentally ran across it. I wasn't really looking for it, but it's a Defense Appropriations Bill or something, I think, in 2010. The Defense Appropriation Bill, which shouldn't have anything you would think in your mind, and I couldn't make a connection with it when I looked through it, but there was somebody had done that work. And buried on page 45 of a 60-something page appropriations bill was an apology to the Native Americans of the United States. So I'm looking at that, I read it, and I thought, this sounds familiar. And it was some of the same words that the governor used. I think 3 or 4 of the words that he described were the same thing. So I know I don't get to vote, but I say don't spend a lot of money on it as far as I'm concerned. I just want to put it out there because it is something that I've said before, and the same with land acknowledgements. They're a piece of paper and they can get put on the bottom of the stack, just like describing who we are, named after school on page 28 of a student handbook. So that's just my input.
And your input is much appreciated. And thank you for that comment, and especially on, of course, land acknowledgements and realizing that, and I know that Robert Levi, you have something to say about land acknowledgements too, but then realizing that you need to put more focus on what the actual purpose of the meeting is and look around and see if there are Native people in the room before doing a land acknowledgement, because it could, and this is my personal, this is me probably not being allowed to say these things, but it has to be meaningful, or else it seems just like a little check the box on the agenda. And so that's something that I am, I hear you. And I'm gonna turn it over to Robert and see if you have anything to add.
Oh, yes. I don't know if you were there Monday, or maybe I said this on Tuesday when you were there about, I was at the Vine Deloria Symposium coming from Washington State on Thursday and Friday of last week. And Professor Wildcat from, I can't remember if it's Oklahoma State or OU, was talking about just that land acknowledgement. And since she brought it up and she opened the door, he was talking about, it does come from a piece of paper. A lot of times now going to all these Zoom meetings and they open it up with land acknowledgement, which comes straight from a piece of paper. And it was okay. We got the point across, but then it became just that, just check the box. So Dr. Wildcat was talking about, you got to emphasize what their responsibility is to the land. So again, I think it's a 3-part portion with this land acknowledgement. One is the actual land acknowledgement. I'm on Cahuilla Serrano land down here in Southern California, and then the responsibility of picking up trash, planting a garden, pruning weeds, or anything that would help the earth survive what we've done to it after within the past years. And also we also include ancestral acknowledgement. And Joel Clark, who's a professor, Mountain Cahuilla professor at University of California, Riverside, we were talking, and he mentioned that we should bring up the issues of what happened to our California Indians, the murders, the MMIW, the rape, pillages, what happened to all our villages, and that should be part of the land acknowledgement also. So, I think, she's perfectly right, and you're perfectly right in terms of saying it's become passe about what they do to this land acknowledgement. But if we include the other 2 components, especially the last one about, the murder of California Indians or American Indians in general, I think that'll bring out, what we're talking about. This is an ugly piece of historical fact that happens, and we've got to address that and start someplace to provide California Indian educators to begin the healing. And again, with the youth, counselors, I hope they get counselors who are trained in, and I don't know if it happens out there, if we can get it in terms of they're trained in California Indian youth issues. So that'd be just something else that we could look into. And you're right, you and Christina, it's a big piece of pie that we're going after. But that's my issue, on my opinion on land acknowledgement. So thanks.
Thank you for that comment. And I do want to.
I was thinking.
Go ahead.
I think you scared her.
I didn't mean to be scary. I was just but Adrian, if you go for it, I'll mute myself.
Oh, sorry, my internet's not working really well up here. I really like. I'll try. My internet's really bad, but maybe I'll type it in.
That sounds good.
Hey, I just thought of something. Somebody just came up to me, believe it or not, the light bulb went up. When we're talking about Paula Band of Mission Indians, Morongo Band of Mission Indians, what doesn't sound right there? Mission Indians. Maybe we can, just throw out there and advise them, maybe the tribe should look at dropping that moniker. Mission Indians. I mean, you're talking about getting rid of the 4th grade Mission Indian project. Here's a start. So do it by example. I just thought about that. That's scary. I hate when I start thinking. But anyway, just an idea. Okay, thanks, Loretta.
All right, thank you, Robert. And we do have a couple of more minutes left, and I want to see if Councilmember Borges or Myers, if you have anything that you want to add. I know Councilmember Harper had to jump off, but I want to save some space for you guys.
I just want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon and for your comments, and for those that just listened in. Please, if something does pop up, please reach out through email, through any of the websites. We definitely want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, and I know that sometimes feeling like you're put on the spot here in front of everybody isn't always the ideal moment to be able to do that. So I definitely want to encourage everybody to continue to engage in whichever way you feel comfortable, so that we're moving in the right direction. I really wholeheartedly that it's an honor to be a part of the council, but I'm just an extension of you, is how I look at it. So definitely want to continue to get your information and feedback information, so that we're moving as we all would like us to move forward. I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon after this meeting as well. Shuru.
Yeah, I'll reiterate the same thing. Much appreciation for everyone that's joined and gave their input. I know there's a ton of super smart Indians up here in our northern area and across all of California, but Northern's got a good collection of them. So listening to the dialogue and then the conversation, I think is extremely important, helps feed the process. And absolutely, we're just representatives to pass the message along 100%. And hopefully we can get a good TikTok going viral here to get some more youth for participation. I'll try to work on one of those dances they do. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it is key, bringing our youth along, making sure that we're using the right tools we have, whether it's social media or whatever it is. Thank you for saying some comments today and for having the dialogue. Hopefully we'll see the folks tomorrow and Friday. And if there's any thoughts, please continue to reach out. Please continue to push for us to continue to stay engaged and continue to use whatever tools we have in our toolkit to engage folks. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, and I will hold you to those TikTok dances so we can get the youth involved. But again, I want to thank you all for participating. We do have another listening session tomorrow, also the council meeting on Friday. And again, you can always reach out to our info@tribal affairs our email with written comments. But again, thank you, and I hope you all have a good afternoon, and thanks again.